Hello, and welcome back to Minecraft. I'm currently working on getting some pathing going into our village that we're working on. I've started making this area and leading it into where we're eventually going to be putting some kind of a statue or a water fountain here. Not entirely sure yet. And I wanted to go ahead and continue this path upward as well so that it gets a little bit easier for us to make it up this hill without having to constantly jump up it like this. I think I've got my basic shape in, so I'm going to have to add some texture in a minute, but this is kind of what it's looking like. I didn't keep it perfectly straight here. I wanted it to have a little bit of a wobble in it. And it'll lead us up here, which is where our project is going to be today. When we did all the terraforming, we talked about putting all of our librarians up here in these three buildings here. I didn't just want to make one massive building for all of them, so I made three instead. And one of these spots, and I'm not sure which yet, is going to house a handful of our librarians today. Getting all of our librarians ready is going to be a lot of hard work because there's so many of them that we need. I believe we need 16 or so in total. So that's going to be quite a lot of work to reroll trades and everything like that, which is why we're just going to be starting off with one of these areas and working from there. Of course, if we roll a good trade while we are looking around, we'll go ahead and lock them in just so that we have them for later. That'll save us some time when we get to the other buildings. I think the librarians we're going to be working on today are the librarians that are going to be the most useful towards gathering. So that's going to be things like fortune and silk touch, and even things like looting, because technically you are gathering stuff when you're looting. All right, I think this path is looking much better, and of course it'll probably change a little bit and get updates as we go, because we're not going to be building directly in this area. I just wanted to get something in right here so that it's easier to get up there, and it's not such a waste on all of our food, because in the last episode I think I went through almost an entire stack while I was building the area for the Fletchers over here. And of course, speaking of the Fletchers, I was working with them between episodes. We've got one of them all the way to master rank, and we got some arrows of harming. I think those might eventually be useful for something. The other guys aren't all the way up to master yet, so I'll have to continue to trade with them so that we see what other kind of arrow types that we're lucky enough to get. And here are all of the emeralds that I've managed to get. I think I had about this many during the episode, and I managed to get a handful more during the break. So like last time with that build, I have a little bit of a shape in mind of the building that I want to do. It's going to be kind of circular. Not necessarily the building itself is going to be circular, but the area is going to be circular. So I'm going to look at all of these areas and see what I think might be the best fit for that building type. This area over here definitely kind of lends itself well to a circle, but I think this area might be too big for what I'm planning. I don't think I want to use this side. Over here, this area isn't incredibly circular. It's kind of long and thin, so I don't think this one will be a good idea either. And of course, that just leaves up here on this hill. And does this look circular enough? Let's see. I think so. I think our building will be able to fit up here. So I think this is where we're going to be building today. And it's not too far away from the Fletchers, which means if I want to take a break and do some trading, I can go do that with ease. It's also quite convenient since I got the path up here. Of course, I can go ahead and continue it and bring it over here too. Just like last time, I brought some gray wool with me so I can kind of plan out where I want the build to be, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I think I've got the layout for our build placed down in wool. The gray blocks here are going to be the shape of the building itself, and this is going to be the entrance, this purple block. These teal areas are going to be flower beds, I think. I'm considering maybe raising them or kind of fencing them off a little. I'm not sure, and we'll figure out when we get there. And then these extra blocks out here are kind of to tell me where my full circle is going to be, because I am going to fence this building in so that the villagers aren't just running around everywhere. I do want to give them a considerable amount of room to be running around in, since there's going to be 5 villagers in this building. With the inclusion of these flower beds on the side and then this fencing area on the outside, this building will end up being circular despite being more like an X or a cross in actual shape. My goal is to make all of the buildings in this village different. That building over there has that double A line roof, so I don't want to include that in any of the other builds that I'm doing. This one is going to have a crossed roof where this roof will be facing out this way and that roof will be facing out that way. With the planning phase all out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and start gathering some supplies and bringing them up. Before I head all the way home to get supplies, I'm going to raid these chests here and see if any of the supplies that I need are here. We're being visited. I guess they couldn't see how busy I was. I'll have to pick that up in a second. But I gotta drop my supplies off. My goodness, guys. So it looks like we got Bad Omen 4. And we had a Bad Omen 2 from before. Got a couple of these. Last thing I need to grab from here is probably this stuff. And then I think it's going to be time to head back to the base to get the rest of the supplies. Overall, this isn't too bad of a start, though. Today is the day we're finally going to get to use my little tiny cactus farm, because we need green dye. We're also going to need to smelt up some more sandstone. I'm pretty sure I'm smelting a lot more sandstone than I'm going to need for this project, but I'm going to need it in the future, so that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and let all of that cook, and while it does, I'm going to go ahead and try to get some more dark oak and birch logs. And I should probably be stripping these as I go, because I do need them in their stripped form. I always seem to forget I can do that while I'm just gathering. And I still had some of these left in storage, so I'm going to strip these as well. I'm going to hope that's enough of the stripped birch right there. We're going to go ahead and get started on the dark oak next. I have a strong suspicion this will be plenty more than we need for the dark oak. Next, I'm going to be deciding what I want to do for the roof. I know I want the main block to be moss, particularly because it has the moss carpets. Unfortunately, most of the green blocks in the game, they don't have stairs and slabs, so this makes things quite difficult. But I want to find a block that is lighter than this and a block that is darker than this. This, of course, is why we wanted this green dye. I'm just going to start with this in case I don't end up liking it. I do kind of wish that this had more texture, but I do feel like the color gap here, with this being lighter and this being darker, is good. So that might end up being what we're using. I think I'm going to leave it undyed until I need those blocks, though, because I don't want to make a full stack of the terracotta or anything like that and then end up not even needing it. So I'm just going to make it to order as I need it. That way I just don't have extras. But now I need to find a block lighter than this that isn't overly saturated or ridiculous. Here are the things that I've come back with. I think this is way too bright and it's kind of not the greatest color for what I'm going for, so I don't think I'll be using that. Then we have this. It's very similar in color. And then last, we have this. This is the most complicated one, though, because this is a gravity block. So if I place it up here, it's going to fall. And I'm not sure how easy that's going to be to deal with. I do think this looks the best, though, so I think this is something I'm just going to have to problem solve with and figure out. I just think this is too similar in color to that. I think that's going to have to be the winner. I think I have plenty of sand and gravel over there, so I'm just going to bring the green dyes that I made for that. And since these only come in these big square blocks, I think I'm going to be using tuff as a border to add more shape to the roof, because it is kind of a greenish gray color. I probably won't use it in this regular tuff variant, but maybe more like the tuff bricks. But I think we're going to want to take some of that with us as well. That's probably way more than enough, but if we need more, we can come grab more. I'll grab one more, just in case. And I think with all this sandstone finally smelted, we are good to go. Everything won't fit. I'm going to leave some of the sandstone here. I can come get it if I need it. I have a feeling I'm not going to need all that I smelted right away. Before we can get started, I need one last supply, and that is going to be spruce wood. So thank goodness we have this set up. Whenever I'm up here, I get to see what I'm working on, and I think that's pretty cool. I'm really excited for what this is going to look like when it's done. That is way more than we're ever going to need, but I certainly don't mind. Now that most of the gathering is out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get started building. The start of the structure is built. I figured since this one starts out the same as the other one that we built last episode, I'm not going to walk you through it because I figured that might be a little bit boring. The next part is where this building is going to definitely start to change up, and that's going to be the roof. We are going to need our tough blocks and then all of our extra blocks like these so that we can start building that. I think we should probably start with the frame with the tough blocks and then go from there. I think the Wandering Trader is really enjoying the house. He's been here the entire time. We have the outline of the roof done now, and I'm going to need to start filling it in with all of our green blocks so that we can get that looking nice. I think I'm going to start with moss first and just fill the entire thing in with moss and then start to do the gradients. And as I go, I'm going to need to figure out what to do about the green concrete powder and how to prevent that from falling into the building. And that's what it's looking like with the moss in there. I still need to texture it, but I'm pretty pleased with the way that this is looking. I think what I'm going to need to do, though, is probably add lichen up on the roof so that way it doesn't spawn mobs up there and I don't have to put a bunch of light up there as well. But overall, this is looking good. And I haven't really shown you guys the entire building yet, so we'll do that now, especially because I need to figure out what I want to do in here. Now, in the other building, I just used the same roof type and used stairs to go up to kind of even this out, but that's not going to work in here. And I'm kind of thinking maybe I need to use the tuff to kind of do that, and that'll allow me to add in my concrete powder without it falling in here. I think that might be the plan. But each of these rooms in here is different. This is kind of the little entryway. And then over here, I have a plan for this to kind of be more of a study area, and that's why there's so many windows. This over here will be one of the bedrooms. I'm going to kind of put some walls in as well, I think, so that they're a little bit more cut off. But this will be one of the bedrooms. I think 3 of the villagers will be in here, and this will be the other bedroom where there will be 2 of the villagers in here. This one has a little bit of a different layout for the windows. This one has like the 2 small ones on the side and the big one on the back. And this one has 1 small one on the back and 2 medium-sized ones on the side. Before I fix the roof in here, let's go ahead and add in those little areas I was kind of talking about. I think something like that will really help. I don't want it to be completely secluded off with a door, but that will kind of give a little bit more privacy to the villagers that will live in there. And there we go. There's both of those walls put in. This will kind of break up the way this house looks. Instead of it just looking completely open, now we have these slightly more secluded areas. And it kind of tells you those are more living spaces, and this is more of the area that they're going to be working. I went ahead and I added in the door. Now it's a little bit safer in here. And I started adding in the ceiling parts. The only part that I was a little confused on was this one right here. I'm not sure how to get this block in a corner here, because if I try to put one like kind of hidden in here, it will show a part of the, like a gap through the wall. So I had to kind of use a slab here, and so it doesn't fully match. I don't think it's incredibly noticeable, though. I mean, obviously it is now because I've pointed it out, but I don't think it's too bad the way that it is. I couldn't think of any other way to do that, though, and I still needed it to be capped off because underneath here is a moss block. So I think that'll do for now. Add a few more torches in here until it's more lit. But yeah, each of these rooms have their own little roof now, and that means that I can start to add a gradient out here. I made a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start doing some kind of a pattern, and I'll check back in when I get it looking the way that I think it's supposed to look. All right, I think that's the kind of pattern I'm going to go with. Each side is going to be a little bit different than this, but it's going to have the light concrete powder up there and then the dark terracotta on the bottom. I think that adds just enough. And of course, I will be going in with some moss carpet and stuff like that to kind of add a little bit more texture as well near the end. I had to go get some lichen, and we can see the building from down here. I'm pretty happy with the way that it's coming out. That's pretty good. Really want to make sure that this area up here is spawn proof, so that's going to do it, I think. And then I'm going to use some of this moss up here to add a little bit more depth to the roof, and it'll also contribute to making it spawn proof. I think the roof is officially done. It's spawn proof and everything like that, and it's got its gradient in. We can do a bit of a walk around so you can see the other sides. They're pretty much the same with just a little bit of variety. Not too bad, I think. Next, however, the thing that I need to do is get this area kind of safe for the villagers, because right now I couldn't put anybody in there or they would get free and they'd just be roaming about. So I think the next thing that I'm going to do is this part, which is a fence that will go around the area and keep them in and keep them safe. So here is kind of the plan, and you're going to see already that I've needed to start doing a little bit of extra terraforming just to bring this area out a bit more. This is going to be a circle that goes all the way around, but each of these sides that faces the flat side of this building is also going to be flat. We are only going to have one entrance into this place. I don't intend on approaching the building from other locations, so just this front entrance, and I will make a path that comes out, of course. But I think this should give them plenty of room on the inside to be able to roam within a perimeter and to be able to see all of the plants and stuff that I plant out here. And here's what that curve is going to look like on the inside, so that gives them plenty of room. And we'll have another flat section and it'll continue on. I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and I'll see you guys again when I'm ready to start working on the villagers. This build is nowhere near complete yet, but we've made some really good progress, and now we're ready to start working on the villagers. After I got the fence in, I went ahead and I added a pathway in as well, and I connected it up to the one that we started earlier. So now we're really starting to see where we need to go in our village to move around, and that has me really excited, and it makes it easier for me to see where I need to plan the next areas. It has begun to rain, but I was going to say that I think that pathways are a really important part when you're making a big build like this, because they're going to connect all of your areas together and make it feel like it's one cohesive build rather than just a bunch of places plopped down in a large area. The next thing I'm going to need to do is get a bunch of supplies so we can go over there with our villagers and start getting some librarians made. And it looks like maybe I made an unintentional golem farm here. I'm guessing as they walk up, they get out of range and then they spawn more. So I might have to find a way to get rid of these guys so that we don't have a huge lag fest with all of these golems. I'm over at our villagers now, and I think I have everything that I need. I've got some stuff to build a new structure over here. I've got some wood in case I need to craft anything. I've got all my lecterns, my books, my emeralds, some signs. I also brought some oak trap doors. That way I can kind of keep them safer from zombies and stuff like that. And I went ahead and I took care of the golem infestation over here because there were so many of them. There were like 15 of them. So I went ahead and took care of those as well. The rest of this process is going to be pretty tedious and boring, so I'm going to go ahead and skip through it, and I'll come back and I'll show you guys what I have when I have something worth showing. After an hour or two, I have all of the librarians ready so that we can put them in their places. As things popped up, I went ahead and just grabbed them, so this meant I went out of order. Everyone is in here, and everyone has a good trade except for this one here. I was only able to get efficiency 4, but this is a pretty cheap price, so I'm happy to buy two of these and combine them to make an efficiency 5. That's still cheaper than the highest that an efficiency 5 can be, so I'm okay with that. I think every single librarian that I need is here. If I think of anybody else, I can always make them. And this is just going to be temporary for them. I am not going to leave them here like this. This is just so that I could get them started and everything like that, because especially librarians require a lot of effort because you're changing the lectern back and forth until you get the trade that you want. For now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave here and we're going to head back to our build. And while I was working on them, I was also working on this. I went ahead and I added a bunch of mud on this side, all the way up to where the villagers are. So now all of this is looking a lot better down here. And I talked about this in the last episode that I'm slowly working on adding all of this as I go whenever I have extra time or whenever I'm not feeling well. I'm just kind of working on that, and it's going to get done eventually over time. On the other side of the island over here, as you can see, I've went ahead and I've stopped about right here. So right around where the villagers are currently staying. And way over here is obviously not terraformed. I'm not sure how much of this side I am going to terraform. I'm probably definitely going to fix a few things and get at least the edge near the island mud. Like this, for example, needs to be terraformed down. There was a dock here that is no longer there, but we're going to want to kind of fix some of this terrain, and I'm going to bring the mud out at least a little ways. I'm not sure if it'll go all the way into the distance because that is a lot of terraforming, and I did make that lake way over there completely mud, and that took me, I want to say, 20 hours or something like that overall. It took a very long time. So I'm not really sure I want to do that over here, but I do want the mud to at least touch the island, and then maybe I'll need to figure out some kind of way to taper it outward so that it looks nice and it doesn't just look like a jarring straight line, because I definitely don't want that. My next step is going to be to get the villagers in here, but this is not ready for them to be in there. As much as I'd like to put them in now, I still have quite a bit of things that need to go on in here, including getting them some places to stay, getting their lecterns in, and I don't really want to have to struggle to build around them. So I think I want to make sure that this area is fully livable before I bring them in, and this includes also getting out here done because I don't want this area to not be ready for them, especially the fence. I think I want to do a few things to the fence so that it's not so uniform all the way around. And if I'm going to be breaking this fence, they can get out, and I don't want that. So I think everything needs to be fully ready before I move them in. To get started on that interior, I'm going to head back to the main base. I'm going to grab some stuff that we don't have over here, and then we'll get started. Here are all the little bits that I brought. I'm not entirely sure I'll use all of it, but we're going to see what we can use. For now, I'm going to put some of this away that I don't think I'll need immediately. And then I'm going to go ahead and use what I have to try to start the interior. I think the interior is finally done. We've got a little bit of shelving up in the front here and a little picture. And then on these side areas, we've got their little bit of a bedroom type situation. This one is for 2 villagers, and we've got their lecterns in their room. And then over here, we have a room for 3 different villagers. And over here, we just have a couple of bookshelves. We don't have their lecterns. Instead, we have the lecterns for those 3 in here in this like study room here. We've got some stuff that they might be, researching out here on the table. And I decided to add a little bit of greenery in here as well, like this over here. And I finally was able to use some of our pottery sherds. Only these front 2 sides are done. I didn't want to waste any on the back. You can kind of see it's empty back there. But I wanted to do something up front, and I thought that those fit in for this area. These are going to be our kind of gathering themed librarians. So I wanted them to kind of fit in well here. Now, before I move them in, I need to finish the outside area and make sure the fence is good in the way that I like it. And then they'll finally have a place to live. I think I'm going to start off with adding some moss in the area. With the moss placed and a little bit of grass, let's go ahead and start adding details. I've got some of our details in here now, including some flower beds, some shutters, and some glow berries, as well as some lanterns so that we have plenty of light in here. Now I need to work on these little flower bed areas. Not all of them are going to have strictly flowers in them, but I do want them all to have something a little bit in there so that they're a little bit more interesting to look at. On this side, we've got a little flowery bush section. Over on this side, we have a tiny little flower garden. Here we've got a bit of an ore pile. And here is our final little area. I went ahead and added a bench so that the villagers can sit and look out upon the lake. And of course, eventually they'll be able to look out on the farmland because there's going to be a farm over here eventually. Next, I'm going to start to add some interest to this fence, like I've done here with this rock. I have to make sure that nothing can be jumped out of or over, and this is from both directions. Obviously, I can make that jump, but the villagers can't make that jump. And I need to make sure that no zombies can get in either. So this is kind of a tall rock, but I want to keep them safe. And I, of course, can jump it because I can do these little block gaps, but the mobs should not be able to, so they should be safe in there. I want to add some more stuff like this elsewhere on the fence as well so that it isn't just a straight fence that's kind of boring. And I might also want to add some detail to this path here as well, because right now it's just grass and a little bit of moss, and that's also kind of boring. I think the build is finally ready for villagers. I went ahead and added this archway to the front so that this side is more interesting. And then, as you guys know, I added this boulder over here. And back here, I added a little bit of a different design for the fence so that it's a little bit more blocked off, since that is a pretty steep hill down there. This side I left kind of basic in the way that it is. I'm not sure if I might want to add something here later, maybe something that leads down to the farm that's down here. I'm not sure. Throughout here, I went ahead and I added a little bit of pathway and some firefly bushes as well, just so that there's a little bit more interest on here, but that it's not too busy. I don't want every single part of the build to be super busy, otherwise you won't know where you're supposed to look. So this is just pretty basic around here. And I think at this point, I can't hold off any longer. It's time to get those villagers in there. I'm not really looking forward to having to get them all the way up there, but it's got to be done. All right, I got them over there, but first I need to come block this up. I don't want anything sneaking in here overnight and damaging any of these villagers, so I got to make sure they're safe in here. And I should probably grab my bed as well. Okay, I don't think there's any way for anything to get in. Just gonna double check. Okay, I think we're good. We're safe now. Just leave that there. And as you can see, I was using scaffolding, boats, and leads to get them in. It's not too terrible, and it's easier to clean up than a bunch of railing, so that's kind of why I did that. But they're all safely within the barrier, so they should be good. I just need to release them. Going to be using F3B for that, just because I don't want to accidentally hit the villagers. That would be atrocious. There we go. And I can put that bush that I just broke back. Bam. Now you guys have a place to live. You've got your beds and your lecterns and everything like that. Contemplating maybe putting some pressure plates right here so this is less likely to be open, but I'm not sure about it yet. They seem to be settling in though, and that makes me very happy. And of course, I'm happy with my decision to let them roam around outside. I know it's pretty common to just kind of do what we have over there where I started making them and getting them ready, where you just kind of close them into a wall, and that's kind of their existence. But I didn't really want to do that with my village. I want my villagers to be able to walk around and move around and explore and stuff like that. Obviously in a safe environment, so that's kind of why they're in, I guess, what I would have to describe as an enclosure here, but I think it's better than a hole in the wall, and I'm happy with it. With last time's build, I went ahead and I added so much to the outside of this building. And part of that was because it was butted up against the outside of the area. So I knew that I wasn't going to be planning anything over there. And so it was really easy to add stuff in around it. But with the build today, I'm not sure what is going to go where around this build. So I don't want to add too much in case I need to change things like the terraforming and stuff. So instead, I think what we're going to do is a secondary build today instead of adding a bunch of detail on the outside here. I'm over here to return these boats, and oh my goodness, I'll have to come in and clear them all out. But as you guys can see over here, my bow is pretty damaged, and I don't think it's going to chew through all of these guys. So that's going to happen later, unless, it gets really laggy or anything, and then I'll deal with that. Speaking of lag, if you are anyone like me and don't know much about Minecraft, while I was playing and working on this area here, and I had all of the villagers in here, I was experiencing a ton of lag. And I realized after a while it's because vanilla Minecraft, at least for me, was only allocating 2 gigs of RAM into the game, which is not enough to be playing with this much stuff going on. So I had to change how much RAM was allocated. And there's plenty of videos out there that show you how to do that if you don't know how to do that. And if you want to at least check how much RAM you have allocated. For now, I have mine set to 6, but I'm going to imagine I might need to up that as I'm adding to the village. I think a lot of mod packs, for example, recommend at least 8 gigs of RAM being allocated. Just keep that in mind. Since this is a vanilla world, I don't imagine it taking a crazy amount. Maybe way later down the line, once I have a lot going on in this world, maybe it'll take more. But for now, I'm just leaving it on 6, and I have noticed, thanks, Rain, I have noticed a significant amount of lag going away, which is really good. And so I just figured I would say something if you're kind of a noob like me and you didn't really know that you needed to go in and manually change that yourself. Before we end off this episode, I want to build a water fountain here. I think it'll be nice to have this path kind of ready to go and to have this little central piece. It'll kind of put a POI in here so we can see where everything is going. So I want to get this done. Now, I will say in advance, this is one build that, because I've never built something like this before, I did build it first in creative because I had no idea how to build a fountain. As you can see here, I have a bunch of blocks laid out that I need to kind of weather. I don't know what the exact pattern is that you need to do to get these to oxidize faster, but I have them laid out here so that way hopefully they get working. We have mostly these bulbs, and then we have some of these new iron bars, as well as a lightning rod to help try to mitigate some of the potential damage that it could do to the villagers if there's a thunderstorm. While I'm waiting for that to oxidize, I'm going to try to figure out exactly where I want this. Here's what our basic shape is looking like. We've got some double stairs and some slabs in the corner. You can see that it's very open down here, and I have a lot of firefly bushes. I want there to be a lot of bugs by the fountain. But next, I'm going to need these bulbs to get to the oxidized state that I want, which is the one right after this, so that it's a little bit more green. I want it to look a little bit tarnished in there. So I need this to oxidize just a little bit more, and I'll place those down in there, and then we can continue. I suppose while I wait, I could go ahead and get a few chores done. I can see that it's too dark over here if he's spawning, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more lighting around the area. The lighting is definitely not going to be perfect, but I added a bunch, so hopefully that helps. We've gotten a little bit more progress, so we need to find something else to do while we wait. I'm thinking I could probably clean up my chest monster over here and get all this put away. We got one. Let's make sure that we keep that. Bam. I found a cat wandering around. You can hang out right there for now. I think there's a few cats up on top of that mountain, so I might have to go get those at some point. I even think that the one from the witch's hut, which is just a little bit further back behind there, I think that black cat is up there as well. So we'll probably have to head up there at some point and get them. It would be really nice to have a bunch of cats in the village. This is not particularly an area that I'd like to get blown up by creepers. But also, the cats are just really dang cute. Boom. Got the floor in at least. Now we can start adding a little bit more details while we wait for more of these to oxidize. Waiting on copper is like watching paint dry. My goodness. I need one more of the bulbs and two more of these bars to completely finish, and they just won't turn. I think it's been over an hour that I've been waiting on everything. My goodness. I think what this is telling me is that I need to make an area where I can just start to oxidize the copper blocks themselves so that whenever I need to craft something, I can just go ahead and make it and then use the axe to kind of get it to the level that I want it at, because my gosh. Guys, don't be mad, but I did a dumb. I should have put the cat in a boat. It despawned. I think I'm losing my mind waiting on the copper. It's all to stage 2, but I need it to be to stage 3, and none of it wants to budge. There's another cat. I have a chance to redeem myself. Let me go get a boat. New friend. Yay! Okay. Hopefully, this little fellow should stay here and not despawn because he's in the boat. Maybe while I'm waiting for the copper to oxidize, I could go get some fish and just tame him. Then I don't have to worry about it at all. There we go. Need to start keeping some fish over here. This little cat can sit here and protect the entry here so that I don't get blown up by creepers when I'm trying to go in and trade. Our last bulb is ready. Now we just need to add the last bits of water. And there we finally go. The fountain is ready. That took an exorbitant amount of time trying to get everything to oxidized. I definitely learned that when you have a project where you're going to need copper, start oxidizing it early. We've got those bulbs down in the bottom as well. I think they look really well. It kind of looks like the bottom has got kind of a little bit of a slimy texture. And I'm glad that just in time we got to use these new bars. I think that having those there adds just a little bit more of a pop of color to this, and I'm very happy with that. I did a little bit of work on the pathing around it as well, so now we actually have a path that fully connects, and you can walk around it and enjoy the area and everything like that. I think right now we mostly just view from this lower angle here, and it's kind of hard to see what all we've accomplished. So I think I'm going to go get my ghast so I can show you guys what the area actually looks like from above and from a new angle. We're just over the bridge on our way in, and man, this place has changed. Between all of the terraforming and now starting to add the buildings in, this doesn't look anything like it looked at the beginning of the season. I am really loving our pathways so far. I think they're going to help us really shape this village. We can kind of see where we're going in the future, and I'm very excited for that. But today I'm quite happy with what we accomplished. We got our first little college area in with our librarians, and so now we have all of the librarians that offer book trades that are good for gathering in there. So that's going to be fortune, efficiency, silk touch, looting, as well as aqua affinity, because aqua affinity helps you mine underwater, and I figure that's really good for gathering. So those 5 gentlemen are in there. And we were able to get the rest of them ready, and they're saved over where we have them just waiting for us for the next area that we're going to build. I know that technically right now I have the ability to fully work on some of my tools and get them fixed up and stuff. But until these villagers have homes, I don't want to use their trades quite yet. So it's going to be a little while before I sit down and fully gear up. I just kind of wanted to see from this angle as well. And these last few episodes for me have been incredibly build heavy in Minecraft, so I think in the next one we will take a little bit of a break from focusing on the building and maybe work on something a little bit different. I have some ideas in mind, so we'll see what we can get up to. But I think that's going to do it for me in this episode today. I really appreciate you coming along with me, and if you made it this far in the episode, I appreciate that too. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again. Bye!